Alright, so we are back for another Dokkan battle video, and in today's video we are going to be talking about who you should pick up with your red Dragonstone, because of course we did just get one in everyone's gift box, so if you haven't checked your gift box yet, make sure you do that. Not only do we get the red Dragonstone, but I think we get some free stones, Kais, and then a wallpaper, so definitely very valuable, free stuff, always a W, and with this red stone, I'm going to be honest, most of the options do kind of suck, but there's a couple good units specifically that you could pick that would be very useful if you're newer to the game, if you're free to play, or anything like that. So with all that said, let's get right into it. The first choice I have is this little bundle. I don't know if they've done this before, but basically you use your one red Dragonstone to get 3 of these units and also 2 Kais. So a lot of value with doing this. Maybe if you pulled Android 21, but you don't have a good team around her, buying this would be pretty useful because not only do you get another Android 21, but then you get 2 Androids units, which of course will, kind of link well with her and also fit right on her team. So definitely some value here for newer players. Like I said, you get 2 Kais with this as well. I'm going to be honest, all 3 of them kind of suck if you've been playing for like a year or two, because you probably just have better options, and the content that you're actually doing, like the difficult content, they're not going to perform that well in. They're really only going to be good for like, infinite history maybe, but other than that, they're not that useful. I think this Android 16 can be pretty good. I think he has a high chance to guard or something like that, but, they're still not that great. So I would say only pick them up if you're newer to the game or free to play, but if you've been playing for a while, there's better options on this list for you. So with that said, let's get into the next option. We've got the AGL Super 17. Now, AGL Super 17 is a pretty good choice because we do have Omega coming right around the corner on Global Dokkan. And of course, if you know anything about that unit, he's heavily restricted to GT bosses. So if you are going to summon for Omega, if you really want to make sure you pull him, you're going to want to make sure you have a good GT bosses team because he's really good on the GT bosses team. Unfortunately, he does have a lot of restrictions. So getting a unit like this, which is really good on GT bosses, is going to help Omega out a little. And I mean, he's just a good defensive unit, so you really can't go wrong with him. He doesn't have any restrictions, so you don't have to run him on any, really weak extreme class team. He gets the 70% damage reduction in total. And then if you throw him in slot 2 or 3, he gets the 50% defense, potentially gets an additional, and then another 50% defense. This guy's going to look pretty impressive. So definitely a good option to pick, especially because he's on some really weak teams. Stuff like Target Goku, GT bosses, Power Absorption, Artificial Life Forms, Inhuman Deeds, Androids, all kind of suck. I guess Androids really isn't horrible because Android 21 and, all the buffs we've had to that as of recently, like the Gammas and all that. So that's not really the worst category, but he's still helping it. And overall, pretty good extreme class unit. So definitely do recommend getting him if you don't have him. And then next up, we do have the AGL Super Vegito. By the way, I just want to clarify this. These units are not ranked in order. They're just kind of put randomly. So this isn't like ranked of you should buy Super 17. And then if you don't have Super 17, buy Super Vegito. It's not like that. It's just kind of, these are all good units to pick and just pick whichever one you want the most, I guess. But Super Vegito, a really good unit if he doesn't get supered. So this guy gets 80% damage reduction from normals. He has a Scouter when HP is 40% or less. And then he's supporting all allies for 35% attack. On his super attack effect, but I mean, just keep in mind, this is the only buff he has in his kit, 40% attack and defense after you receive an attack. So, I'm just saying, if you get supered with this guy, even if this is activated, even if this little buff right here is off, yeah, he's still going to get one-shotted. And when I say one-shotted, I mean like obliterated. Like he's going to get sent to the Shadow Realm. It's just completely over. So definitely not the greatest unit to bring in actual difficult content, because if you get caught, your run's just immediately over. But in some Super Battle Road stages and Infinite History stages, whatever, this guy could be pretty useful, and he's on a lot of really good teams. So if you're newer to the game and you don't have a good 6th option on your team and you need to get someone, this guy I think is a pretty good choice for that, because like I said, his Scouter is pretty useful, and normals are going to be doing absolutely no damage to him. But then next up on the list, we do have the TEQ Golden Frieza. So TEQ Golden Frieza, I mean, yeah, really good unit. Damage is going to be absolutely horrible, but we don't really care about damage in the game right now. So he reduces damage received by 80% when HP is 50% or more. Obviously, most of the time you are going to have that. His defensive stat is usually around 100k. At least I have him rainbowed, and it's usually around 100k. Although I think I gave him some defensive equips as well. So his defensive stat's probably going to be a little under 100k if you've got this guy with a couple dupes, or if he's 55%, it's probably going to be like 60k or something like that, which isn't going to be amazing, but with 80% damage reduction, it is still pretty useful. Normals aren't really going to damage this guy, and supers could still do some damage, but it's going to be relatively low, talking like maybe 100, 200k, which still might sound like a lot, but It's a lot less than a lot of other units are going to take, especially, you know, comparing him to a lot of other units released in 2017. So definitely very good at that 80% damage reduction. Keep in mind, though, once you fall below 50% HP, the damage reduction does drop to 50%. So 50% damage reduction is not going to be enough with this guy. You're going to want to make sure that you have the 80%. I know you can't really control it most of the time, but I'm just saying, you know, getting that 50% damage reduction is going to heavily nerf him. And then at that point, normals are probably going to start damaging him. And he's going to become more of a liability to the team. So at that point, you know, you probably just shouldn't have brought him. But like I said, if you're newer to the game or anything like that, and you don't have good options on, you know, some of these teams that he's on, because he's on a lot of teams, then I definitely do recommend picking this guy up. Because if you do have that 80% damage reduction, this guy's very, very good defensively. So pretty good option with him. But then next up, we do have the Super Saiyan 3 Vegeta. So it's pretty much the exact same case as why I mentioned the Golden Frieza, actually. This guy has 80% damage reduction, but there's no HP restriction behind it. It's just for the first 10 turns. So that's definitely pretty good. But after turn 10, dude, just don't even... It's over, right? Don't even think about winning. If you're still around in the fight after turn 10 and this guy pulls up on that rotation, I mean, good luck, man. This guy is not going to be tanking that well. At least with the Golden Frieza, if you don't have this 80% damage reduction, you have this 50%. So maybe if you're only taking like one attack and you're full on HP, you might be able to survive as long as it's not a super. But with this Vegeta, after you lose this 80% damage reduction right here, it's over, dude. You're just going to get annihilated. So I would just recommend being very careful with where you bring him. If you want to bring him in Super Battle Road, that's fine. If you want to bring him in, I don't know, one of these really short red zone stages that only has like 2 phases to it, that'll probably work as well. But the second you bring him in, like, I don't know, stage 8 of the Shadow Dragon event, where there's multiple phases to that, and sometimes that can kind of drag out. I think I've gone to like turn 12 on that one time. So if you bring this guy in there, and you get to that final phase, and this guy loses his 80% damage reduction, yeah, it's just over. You've just lost. So what I'm saying is just be very careful with how you use him. But in the right events, this guy can be very useful. So I guess that pretty much has been the video. Not really a lot of good units in this pool, if I'm being completely honest. I know Physical Vegito Blue can be pretty good with his damage, but defensively he sucks. Super Saiyan 4 Goku, I guess, can be kind of good, but defensively he kind of sucks. Who else? I mean, Janemba is somewhat decent with his guard, but still not that great. And then that's pretty much it. Other than that, yeah, just buy a Kai. Everyone else that's good I already mentioned. So that has been the video. Let me know in the comments who you picked up with your redstone, and I'll catch you all in the next one.